In today's video, we're talking about 3 tips to getting highly skilled volunteers to join and stay on your team. Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Ted Snyder. I'm a nonprofit consultant, and I do what I do because I believe that a better world needs healthier nonprofits. Now, if you watch this channel regularly, you know that usually Lisa is sitting next to me, my wife, and she and I do this together. She's out for the day, so you're just gonna have to deal with just me. But we're talking about 3 tips to getting highly skilled volunteers to join your team and stay on your team. And this is a big deal because a lot of nonprofits are thinking, oh, I need to hire staff members, or I have volunteers, but they can kind of do menial tasks. I don't have a lot of menial tasks to do in my nonprofit. If I could just get some highly skilled volunteers, volunteers that have a skill level that's comparable to a staff member for certain things, that would be awesome, but I feel like that's not possible. The only thing that volunteers can do are kind of the mass mailings. They can do a lot of like envelope stuffing. They can do things like handing out flyers, but volunteers, when it comes to something that's a little bit more skill dependent, then I need to start paying them. And that's kind of half true, right? You want to make sure that when you're bringing people on board into your organization, if they're there full-time hours, if they're there even part-time hours, you want to consider thinking, hey, should we actually, compensate this person for their time? But a lot of times skilled volunteers do want to do what they love to do and what they know how to do, but there aren't opportunities for them to do that for 3 or 4 hours a week, but they would totally do it. So we're going to talk about ways to get them involved in your organization and to keep them around. So first of all, give them real value for giving their skilled time. You want to make sure that you're giving them something in return. A volunteer that's coming on board, they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart to help out the organization, but it's still a transaction between you and that volunteer. You want to make sure that they walk away from every volunteer experiencing feeling like they got something out of it. So first of all, remind them of the vision and what their time is going toward accomplishing. Nothing's worse than showing up to volunteer, doing a thing, and feeling like you accomplished nothing, like you helped no one. The whole point of being there was to make a difference and to actually do something. So remind them of what they're doing and what they're accomplishing. Actually celebrate when you have a mission accomplished moment. When you see that what you were aiming to do as an organization happened and you were able to help a family or an individual or whatever it is that your organization does, remind your volunteers when they're in there that this just happened. We actually have a mission accomplished moment. Take time to celebrate that. That's why they're there. That, in a sense, is the paycheck that they're looking for from this volunteer experience. And if you can give that to them, they're going to be thinking this was worth my time. It doesn't matter that if I took a job doing what I'm doing right now, maybe they have a job where they do their skilled role, but they say, at the job I get paid money, but at this volunteer role where I'm showing up just a few hours a week, I get paid in self-actualization. I actually make a difference, and I walk away from this experience feeling like I'm a better, a more whole person. That's something really special that you're offering to them. Don't forget about that. And then recognize the value that they're bringing and act accordingly. So if there's somebody who could take their skill and go and get paid $40 an hour somewhere out in the business world doing that skill, you don't need to pay them $40 an hour, but you need to treat them like they're worth $40 an hour. So think about that. That might be more than anybody on your entire staff is making. So really approach that from a sense of, we are so thankful that you're here. We're so thankful that you're bringing your expertise. I've seen it happen a ton of times in organizations where they bring in a volunteer who has a really high skill level. They could go out and maybe they're already even doing this job somewhere else. And the volunteer leader doesn't respect their knowledge in an area, doesn't respect the skill that they have enough to listen to what they have to say. In one job that I had a while back, I was a volunteer leader of a team of volunteers that did construction work. Now, I am not a handy guy. I can swing a hammer. I can turn a wrench if I have to. But this was a team that was building sets, basically. And they were a team of people who knew how to do construction work. And so I had to lean on them to do the stuff. Now, a really easy way to have lost them and made them never want to come back and volunteer again would be for me to tell them how to do it. I kind of gave them the vision of what we were going for, what we were trying to do. And then I allowed them to give me to say, hey, we can accomplish this or we can't accomplish that. This is possible. This is not possible with the current tools or the equipment that we have. They needed to have a chance to tell me exactly how it was going to get done and the best way to get it done. And then I had to listen. That was my responsibility to recognize, hey, listen, they do this as a job. I don't do this as a job. I'm here to facilitate and help them kind of come together as a volunteer team, but I'm not here to tell them exactly how to do it. So make sure that you recognize the value they're bringing. If it helps to think of what hourly wage they could be earning out in the real world doing this, then act accordingly to the value that they're bringing. All right, second tip, train them yourself. Now, this is a really, really big one that I see happening in organizations all the time. They're like, oh, I just wish I could have some more skilled volunteers because I could really use 2 or 3 or 4 people just like me on the team, but I don't have enough money in the budget to hire staff or whatever it may be. Well, you have the skill set. So you could actually train somebody up. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. It's going to take a lot of energy from you to pull it off. But over time, you can actually train that person yourself. And it's very important for nonprofit organizations that are using volunteerism to involve training in their long-term plans. Because 2 or 3 years from now, you are going to be thanking yourself that you started training volunteers maybe at a younger age, or maybe at a younger point in their careers, or maybe they just want to learn new skills and they're happy to learn new skills if it's going to help change the world for the better. So involving training in what you do can really help the organization, especially if you're looking for skilled volunteers, because guess what? Not only have they learned a new skill and now they have become a skilled volunteer, but you've also ingrained in them the culture of the organization. They just kind of get it. And a lot of times hiring outside staff members, people who might have the skill set, but they're coming from outside, it takes a long time for them, and they may never even quite understand the organization's culture. But when you're training somebody up from within the organization to be a skilled volunteer, they're going to get the culture because they've been around it. They've grown up in it. They've grown up through it. And it also gives them a home base for their skill set. And here's what I mean by that. When you grew up at home, hopefully you had a healthy and good home environment. You eventually moved out, but you still have home. There will always be home for you, and you have feelings about home, whether they were good or bad. Well, when you train up a volunteer and you bring somebody from a non-skilled volunteer position that kind of anybody could do to one that is very honed and specific and actually has given them a valuable skill set, if you do it well, they're going to look back on that experience, whether they stay at your organization for 10 years or they go on to do something else. They're always going to look back at your organization and have fond memories of home. That's going to help your organization in so many ways. If they're still around, they're going to have a certain level of ownership with your organization that you just can't get from most staff members unless they've been there for a really long time. If they have moved on to different organizations, they're going to be talking positively about your organization because you have invested in them as a person. You took the time to invest in them, to teach them a skill. This is John Maxwell's 4th level of leadership. He has an amazing book out there called The 5 Levels of Leadership. So this is the second highest level of leadership that you could step into, which is people development. So don't take this for granted. Look around you and say, hey, what are some skilled positions we need in our organization? How can we train some people to do these? Give them some skills, invest in them as people, and you're going to see the level of your organization rise, as well as those volunteer positions get filled. Tip number 3. Stop convincing yourself that they don't want to be there. Now, this is the biggest hurdle that I think a lot of nonprofit organizations and leaders have to deal with. Is they think about the fact that I'm asking somebody to give some of their time to say no to hanging out with a friend on the weekend for a little bit, to say no to whatever else, to come in here to use a thing that they could get paid $60, $80 to do somewhere else. And I'm saying, hey, come in here, do it for free, or maybe I'll pay you in pizza or something like that, right? And you start ruminating and kind of spiraling down the thought process as an organizational leader that you are stealing from them when you ask them to volunteer. A lot of leaders have this mindset. Unless I'm paying them money, I'm stealing from them. You've got to remember that you are giving them something that they cannot get anywhere else. A lot of skilled volunteers out there, skilled people out there, are looking for an opportunity to use what they know and love to change the world. And they might not be getting that from their job. They probably aren't getting that from their job. They're getting paid. That's the trade-off that they're making at their job. But at this volunteer organization, they know I can spend 3 or 4 hours a week or a couple hours a month doing this really highly skilled thing that I get paid a lot of money to do elsewhere. When I do it here, it changes the world. It changes somebody's life. It makes a difference for a family. And so don't forget that you're giving them that opportunity. And a lot of people out there are looking for opportunities like that. They're looking for the connections that come from volunteering. They're looking for the good feelings and the self-actualization that you can provide. You know, one of the time-tested ways of helping someone with depression is get them volunteering and serving other people because they feel better. It actually makes you feel happier. It releases something in your brain. It makes you realize that the world is bigger than you and your problems, even though you have problems and things going on in your life, you can help somebody else to feel better and to move forward, and it lifts you in the process. And so people need that, and they can't get that from their job. I mean, you just hear people talking about their jobs, and you'll know that a job is paying them money, and that's why they're there. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they're not there at their job for self-actualization. They're not there at their job because it makes them feel good. Usually, they don't like their boss, and the people that they work with are annoying, and all you hear is the negative, right? For a volunteer situation, you want to foster an environment where they come in and they have great friends, great connections that they've made, people that they trust, that when they walk away, they feel good about themselves and what they've done, and people that they can care about and help through what they're doing in the volunteer organization. So just remember, they're looking for a place to belong, and you can give them these things. And this is this kind of stuff that money just can't buy. This is the kind of thing that you can't actually give to a staff member because they're getting paid, but you can give this kind of thing to a volunteer. It's a very special thing. It's a very, it's a different kind of thing you can give to somebody. So don't convince yourself as a leader that they don't want to be there. Don't be thinking that, oh, I'm stealing from them when I ask them to volunteer. You're actually giving them something. Now here's the kickoff, the flip side of that. If you're actually giving them something, you do have to remember to actually bring them that value, going back to that first tip, making sure they know what they're doing as far as the vision is concerned, make sure they know what they're accomplishing, celebrating what they're accomplishing, and they're going to walk away feeling like this is such a good use of my highly valuable skill set. Now, you might be watching this video and thinking, hey, I don't really care about skilled volunteers. At this point, I just need any volunteers. I need some warm bodies. I need to figure out how to get some people into my organization to make it able to do more stuff. And we actually have a video for that. You can check that out. It's called 4 Tips for Getting New Volunteers. And we'll see you over in that video.